What's the most memorable random act of kindness you've ever experienced? A few months ago, I was on my way to a bus stop with my bike because it was raining quite a lot. Just as I got close, I saw the bus leaving. Sucks, I know. Anyway, the bus driver saw me and stopped right beside, asking if I wanted to get on. I know this may not sound too heroic, but at that time, in those conditions, it was a real save. One time I lost my wallet, and this guy just gave me $20, no questions asked. I mean, who just does that these days, right? My ex wanted to move in together and then changed his mind, effectively making me homeless. His best friend listened to his reasons why think him George Clooney, and then asked me how I am, and he and my other friend helped me find a place to stay. In the end, my ex is not George Clooney, which is probably why he reached out 2 weeks ago. Nice try, abusive pause. That best friend was the only person who asked me how I am in that entire relationship. I was taking 2 toddlers through Aldi trying my best to stay in my little budget. A lady saw me struggling and paid for all of my groceries. She was a huge help and blessing. When I was having a really bad day, a stranger in line at the coffee shop in front of me paid for my drink without even knowing me. It truly made my day and taught me to pay it forward. When I was a barista, I told a regular my boyfriend and I broke up, and she gave me a 20 and a big hug. Also, when I was a barista, there was a sweet southern woman named Rita gave me 2 black trash bags full of clothes and accessories because she said we were the same size and she was moving away to Panama where it's a lot warmer than where I live. I've been giving the staff at my gym food as I love to cook and need to give it away or I binge. I got some Tupperware back, and they wrote a note about how much they appreciate me and how it's always a treat whenever I can bring something for them. I've been struggling a bit, so it was nice to feel seen and appreciated not just for what I do, but for who I am. I drove hours to a funeral in New York, and while I was there, my car overheated. We could drive a few blocks at a time and then had to stop, fill it with coolant, and wait for it to cool down before repeating. I had just started a new job and was panicked at having to deal with the car during work hours and being stuck away from my home office without my computer. A friend of a relative who was at the funeral drove with me to get coolant and called around to find a mechanic who could work on the car immediately despite it being late afternoon. He couldn't find anyone, but eventually found someone who would work on it first thing in the morning. It turned out the car needed a new engine, so by midday the next day I rented a car to get back home. I picked up the repaired car a few weeks later. When all was said and done, he didn't necessarily change the outcome much, but just being there as a resource when I was caught up in anxiety, in an unfamiliar situation in an unfamiliar city, surrounded by family who were preoccupied with the funeral. General grief made a world of a difference to me. I don't understand what made this person act so kindly, and I hope I will never forget it. When I was little, my step-family would take care of me during the day while my mom and dad worked. They never bought me anything like a snack or little toy. My step-grandma would always treat my mom and me bad. One day we were at the bank, and I kept pushing buttons on those vending machines where they have snacks. I still remember this man in a suit stopped and put in $1 for me and got me a Rice Krispie treats. My 16-year-old had been hit by a car while crossing the road at about 55 mph. He was in a coma for a week, and in the hospital 2 more weeks. A friend came to check on me, bring me some food, and handed me a small bag full of parking garage tokens. This allowed me to exit the building so much easier when I got a chance to make it home for a shower and see my other kids. Not to mention the financial help. Each token was $2 each. Hands down the nicest, most thoughtful thing anyone has ever done for me. This was years ago. My boyfriend and I were walking past a concert venue where Roberta Flack was playing, and someone asked us if we wanted to buy tickets. A man standing nearby heard us tell the first man that we didn't have enough money, and he paid for the tickets. It was a wonderful thing to do and a wonderful show. This was years ago, when I was in my late 20s. My mother and I were walking to the bus stop, and this woman walked up to me, said, "God told me to find you," put a 50 bill into my hand, and walked off. Edit to add another one. I don't remember exactly when this was, but I was pregnant and in a sore mood. My husband and I were again on our way to the bus stop, but a different one, and had gone in a convenience store to buy us drinks, and this elderly lady saw me standing there probably looking pretty pale. I have a hard time when I'm pregnant, and said and gave me a taco. I don't remember what she said because it was in Spanish and I don't speak Spanish, but I almost cried at the gesture of kindness. A couple were friends with just bought us plane tickets to come visit them. I was out at a restaurant having lunch with my husband and kids. The youngest was still breastfeeding, but by that point it was easy breezy, and I had long passed the days of cracked nipples and mastitis which I'd had with my first kid. So just a very relaxed day out doing our thing and enjoying being together, when this young woman approached me with a coconut water, another of the drink I was already having with my lunch. She placed it on our table in front of me, saying it was good that I was feeding my baby and that I should have another drink. It was a very sweet gesture, and I hope for the sake of that young woman that, while it clearly came from a place of kindness, it didn't also come from a place of sorrow, i.e. her own infant child loss or infertility. I guess I'll never know. A stranger once paid for my coffee during a rough morning. It turned my day around and made me believe in good vibes. I was in Erasmus, and I didn't know anyone. I just got into the dorm, and there was one person in the kitchen who offered to help me move the things from the storage to my room, such as bed, desk, and so on, and it literally warmed my heart. It had been a rainy day. I had just walked for 1 hour trying to reach the place while moving my 20 kg luggage, and this random act of kindness just left its influence on me. We are now great friends. BTW. I was talking with a friend of mine who's best described as a big scary looking dude. We were confiding with each other about similar abuse and neglect we'd both suffered as children. I mentioned something about my ex-husband mocking me when I told him about it. He went stone silent, expressionless for a second, looked me dead in the eye and said in a completely steady, serious voice, "Do you want me to hurt him for you?" I said no, it wasn't worth it. But I consider the offer to be a tremendous act of kindness on his part, and he would have absolutely followed through if I told him yes. When a stranger paid for another person's groceries when they were short on cash, it might seem small, but the kindness and empathy involved can create a ripple effect, inspiring others to act generously too. My husband and I were on our honeymoon. We had worn matching purple Converse at our reception. We wore them walking all over San Francisco. We went to a very pricey restaurant on the water. A lady had noticed our shoes earlier as we were walking around. We noticed her at the bar, waved. We asked for the check, she'd paid it. Insane. It was a big bill, I'm sure. People can be so kind. Stranger buying coffee, just because I looked tired.